Hi, I'm Tash. Welcome to Tash's Library. Today's video is going to be my November TBR chosen through my TBR game. This time I'm going to pick 8 books for my TBR. I think I should be able to do that because I have read 9 books in October. Begin by throwing my dice, and that is 5. That means I need to pull every 5th card in the pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Published before the year 2000. Right, let's look at my list. For the first prompt, published before 2000, I have decided to go with Raymond E. Feist's Magician. I've been wanting to read this for quite some time, and at least according to my copy, I believe this was first published in 1983. The world had changed even before I discovered the foreign ship wrecked on the shore below Crichton Castle, but it was the harbinger of the chaos and death that was coming to our door. War had come to the Kingdom of the Isles, and in the years that followed it would scatter my friends across the world. I longed to train as a warrior and fight alongside our Duke like my foster brother, but when the time came, I was not offered that choice. My fate would be shaped by other forces. My name is Pug. I was once an orphaned kitchen boy with no family and no prospects, but I am destined to become a master magician. So that kind of gives me like Name of the Wind vibes, and I might be completely wrong there. I haven't read this. But I'm looking forward to it. I kind of like that idea of that kind of coming of age and magic, and it's meant to be a massive fantasy adventure story. So that's going to be my first book of November. And for the second pick, I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nostalgia. So that's a book that gives me nostalgia in some way, whether it be because something I read a while back or something that reminds me of something in the past. And nostalgia, I am going to go with a book that I first read in my first year of high school, and that's The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I have it in this beautiful bind-up. And this is a whole complete collection of the books of Earthsea. But my TBR is just going to include The Wizard of Earthsea at this stage. I remember this book really, really fondly. And I kind of hope it lives up to my expectations now. But I'm so looking forward to it. And it kind of makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside when I think about reading it. And yeah. This is a classic. It's going to be great. And book number 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 features death somehow in the book. For features death, I am going to go with the Caiaphas Cain omnibus. This time I'm going to be reading book number 5, which is called Duty Calls. So this is by Sandy Mitchell, and they're such fun books to read. Listen to the back of this one. The legendary commissar Caiaphas Cain, lauded as one of the great heroes of the Imperium, finds himself thrust onto the battlefield again. Cain wants nothing more than to keep out of trouble and get to the other side of his commission in one piece, but the war-torn 41st Millennium has other ideas. Confronted with the powers of chaos and hordes of alien foes, our intrepid commissar seeks to sidestep danger and talk his way out of trouble. Yet each time he survives, his legend only grows and his life is in ever greater jeopardy. So this is amazing because he portrays himself as a bit of a coward, and we do get the story from his point of view. He's constantly trying to avoid trouble, and in doing so ends up in the center of all chaos all the time and ends up saving the day. And so builds up this legend of being a hero and everyone admires him. And it's so funny, so funny. And even though it does result in a lot of deaths, and every book, I mean, there's people in his particular unit who die all the time. The heaps of the enemy die. The last one was he was fighting orcs, and I think thousands and thousands of orcs died. So I'm pretty confident that it will feature death. And this is just such a fun read. His the footnotes in this are gold because it's trying to kind of provides a separate perspective from Caiaphas's, and sort of trying to show him up a little bit. So it's hilarious. It's really good, and I'm definitely glad I've managed to get this onto my TBR for November. And number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a translated work. For translated, I had a few options because I did have the 3-body problem, which was written by Kishin Liu. I also have the Never Ending Story, which I've wanted to reread, and this was first published in German. However, I have decided, in the spirit of wanting to complete series ASAP, because I keep starting new series and I really should finish the ones I've already started, I've decided to go with Blood of Elves, which is technically the first book of the Witcher series, but there are 2 short story books that come before this. I have read those and I actually really enjoyed them. So this one, from what I hear, follows more of his story in a bit more depth. For over a century, humans, dwarves, gnomes, and elves have lived together in relative peace. But now the races are fighting once more, killing their own kind and each other. As the threat of war hangs over the land, Geralt of Rivia must protect the child of prophecy, Ciri, from those who are hunting her for the extraordinary power she holds, a power that could save the world or destroy it. This time Geralt may have met his match. Geralt is this monster hunter and he kills monsters for payment. A number of other characters. So there's Yennefer, who is sort of his love interest. She's a pretty badass witch. And then there's Ciri, who's sort of like his adopted daughter as such. He has taken on responsibility for looking after her. And then there is the bard Dandelion as well. I'm not sure if Dandelion turns up in this book. I'm not even sure if Yennefer does, but I'm guessing they do because they're key characters. And I'm looking forward to continuing this series. It should be really good. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 animals. So that could be a book that has animals within it, or has an animal on the cover or in the title. And for animals, I am going to go with another series that I need to complete, and that is the Winnowing Flame trilogy. I have yet the 3rd book to read, The Poison Song by Jen Williams, and this one features an animal on the cover. And so this is one of the animal companions / mounts that turn up in this series. And this is shaping up to be the best series I've read all year. I adored the first book. The second book was amazing too. And I have very high expectations for the 3rd book. It basically follows a trio of people. One of them is Vintage, who is this noble woman who studies relics from a time of conflict. And I'm going to keep it vague because the reveal and the gradual finding out what happened is part of the charm of this book. And then she travels with this elf-like creature, so Tor, and he is trying to save his people because they used to drink from the sap of this tree, that it gave them immortality and good health, and the tree had sort of died, and they were all running out of health, and they found out, however, that if they drank human blood, they could continue extending their lives as well. However, drinking human blood brought with it an illness which has led to the decline of their society. And so he's trying to find a way out of this. They are then joined by a witch called Noon, who has escaped captivity. She now joins their little trio, and she also has her own, a bit of her own agenda there too. There's some other really great supporting characters, and I don't even want to tell you too much because it is such a joy to be surprised as you read the book. And it's sort of fantasy, but it has sci-fi elements. It even has some horror elements. It is unique. It is so unique and an absolute joy to read. I could not put the first two down, and cannot wait to get to this in November. Book number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A book with titled chapters. And for titled chapters, this was hard because you've actually got to go into books. And I have really wanted to include at least one ebook into my November TBR because my Kindle is really easy to carry around in my bag. And if I'm traveling around, if I go to work, if I'm waiting anywhere, I have it with me. So I never waste time, and I can always read if I'm stuck in a queue or something, or decide to go have a coffee somewhere. I have a book to read. And so it was actually a matter of opening up all the books and looking for titled chapters. But I've settled on Children of Blood and Bone. So this is by Tommy Adeyemi. And I think this is going to be fun. I think it might be. I don't know a lot about it, but the chapters do start with the characters' names. So I think that counts. It counts, right? Children of Blood and Bone is a debut novel, and it is part of a planned trilogy, I think. I'm not sure if the other two have come out. I believe the second one has. And it follows this heroine, Zelly, who attempts to restore magic to the kingdom of Orisha, following the ruling class, Cassidian's brutal suppression of the class of magic practitioners that Zelly belongs to, the Magi, or Magi, I don't know. But this is cool. This is sort of African inspired. It's got African mythology in it, and I believe it is a YA novel. And book number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay! The Bookworm Game. The Bookworm Game I introduced when I added to my October TBR, so I'll put that video up in the cards if you want to go check out how it works. But just quickly, just a cute little dice game I have, and it uses a number of cards with prompts, and you're meant to just come up with words that match those prompts. For my TBR, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a card, and then I have to pick a book that matches one of the 3 prompts on the card. And I only have to pick one this time. Last time I used this was super fun, and you get to get quite creative in thinking about how books might match the particular prompts. I'm going to just pull this one. So I have things for breakfast, a name of a bar, or something gaseous. That looks like it might be really hard. So yay for the Bookworm Game. It was a little mean to me because those prompts were not easy. And I did actually come up with one possibility for each prompt. And the first one, for something you have at breakfast, I thought maybe the Hunger Games, because you do bring hunger to breakfast. I know, it's a stretch, So that's one possibility. The second possibility for name of a bar. So what I kind of treated this a little bit loosely and thought, well, how about picking a title of a book that would make a great name for a pub? And so that would be The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. Because The Wolf and the Woodsman, I would totally drink there, right? Yeah, sounds really cool. And the last prompt was something gaseous. That was a tricky one. I did think maybe I could go with a non-fiction selection for that one. And I do have Caesar's Last Breath by Sam Keane, which looks at the composition of air. It's a non-fiction book. So that is gaseous. It's a breath, right? However, having looked at those three options, I am indeed going with The Wolf and the Woodsman. And not just because I could drink there, but because it's a retelling. It was part of my birthday haul, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. The synopsis of this one sounds really cool. It's a pagan woman with hidden powers and a one-eyed captain of the woodsmen, and they form an unlikely alliance to thwart a tyrant. It seems to be in the same vein as, Spinning Silver and The Bear and the Nightingale, and I love The Bear and the Nightingale. And as I said, it does bring in Hungarian history, Jewish mythology, and I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a really cool take on a retelling. I feel like it's giving me Little Red Riding Hood vibes, just some The Wolf and the Woodsman idea, but I don't know much else about it. To be honest, I was won over by the Eastern European mythology. So that is going to be my Bookworm Game pick. My final pick will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Elemental. So that will mean a book that refers to the elements, is about the elements, has an element in the title. For elemental, I had a few options because I could have picked some of my science books and had some non-fiction in Non-Fiction November. I do feel like a full-on fantasy month. And so I've decided once again to try and complete one of my series, or at least work towards completing one of my series. And I've decided to go with The Kingdom of Copper. So this is by S.A. Chakraborty. And it's the second book in the Daevabad trilogy, the first book being The City of Brass. And this is kind of it's a fantasy novel that's sort of set originally in 18th century Cairo, and it follows this con woman who accidentally summons a jinn warrior. Sets off a whole sequence of events where they then have to travel to this city of brass, which is a jinn city, so an ancestral city. And I don't want to say much else, but this is kind of really cool. I did enjoy the first novel. It wasn't one of the best books I've read this year, but it was an awfully good read, and I'm really looking forward to finishing the series. And that's it. I have 8 books picked out. I also want to continue my short story reading, and therefore I'm going to pick 2 short stories from my jar. So the red one is this one here, and that is Prince Elberic and the Snake Lady by Vernon Lee. I know nothing about Vernon Lee. This comes out of the big book of classic fantasy. And the second short story I picked is this one here, and it's Elements of Pataphysics by Alfred Jarry. Once again, don't really know what this is, but looking forward to building up a bit of my repertoire of short stories. And this one comes from the big book of science fiction. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I haven't been too ambitious. It is a bit ambitious. It is a big chunk of books. This is it. Plus The Wizard of Earthsea. So, and a little Kindle book. So that is my TBR. Thank you so much for for watching. If you like my videos, please subscribe. It does give me a bit of a boost, makes me feel like people are enjoying my videos. And catch you next time, and may the books be with you.